Every time we fought, I was the one who went back. I apologized first, reached out first, loved harder, and he let me. Until one day I didn't. And that's when he finally noticed the silence, but by then I'd made peace with it. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Let's all be internet friends. It was always me, first to text, first to fold, first to say, let's not do this anymore, and mean let's pretend it didn't happen. Tonight I sat on the floor next to the couch, phone face up beside me, no sound, no buzz. Just the timestamp of the last message I sent 2 hours ago. Can we talk before this becomes something worse? He read it, didn't reply, the fight had been stupid. They always were, something about tone, about forgetting to call, about making plans without asking. He rolled his eyes halfway through my sentence and said, "You always turn everything into drama." Then walked out. That was 4 hours ago. I'd already drafted an apology. It sat in my notes app, not sent, but rehearsed. I didn't even know what I was apologizing for, just knew it was easier to carry the blame than sit in the silence. I hovered over the message. I'm sorry if I made it bigger than it needed to be. I backspaced, typed again, deleted again. For the first time I just sat there, still, phone untouched, apology unsent, and I waited not for him. For the part of me that usually broke first, she didn't show up. Cameron said I was too emotional. It was after a fight about nothing again. I'd cried, not loud, not theatrical. Just quiet tears while I tried to explain how alone I felt even when he was 3 feet away. He didn't raise his voice. He never did. He just sighed, like he was tired of hearing me speak. "You do too much," he said. "Everything's a feeling with you. It's exhausting." I wiped my face with my sleeve. "I'm trying to connect. You're trying to control." That one sat in the center of my chest, sharp. "I just want to feel seen." He laughed once. "You want to feel like a movie. That's not real life." After that, I learned how to fold myself smaller, sharpen my sentences, turn big emotions into small nods. I stopped crying in front of him. Started saying it's fine before I even decided if it was. He called that growth. I called it performance. Because when someone tells you that your softness is a burden, you start treating it like a weakness. I became less loud, less honest, less visible, and he became more comfortable. That should have told me everything. Rena was tired of watching me shrink. She showed up with a grocery bag and a face that said she already knew I'd lie when she asked, "You okay?" I opened the door in an oversized hoodie, hair tied up, smile fake. "Don't," she said, "just sit." She unpacked the bag like it was a mission. Ice cream, chips, 2 bottles of sparkling water. No questions, no advice, just comfort. Eventually, she glanced at my phone lighting up across the room. No new message, just the screen checking for one. She raised an eyebrow. Still nothing. I shook my head. She didn't say I deserved better. She'd said it too many times already. This time, she said, "You apologize for breathing, Lee." I stayed quiet. She sat beside me, handed me a spoon. "Love shouldn't feel like homework." "I know," I said, "but you keep writing essays for someone who doesn't even read them." That one got me. I looked down, blinked hard. Rena sighed. "If he wanted to fix it, he would. He's not confused, he's just comfortable." I didn't defend him. Didn't say he meant well. Didn't say he had a hard past. I just leaned my head on her shoulder and let the silence sit. It was the first time silence didn't feel like punishment. He never said sorry first. Not once. Not when he snapped at me in front of friends. Not when he canceled plans last minute, then went out with Josh instead. Not even when I cried and said, "I don't feel chosen." He'd come home after every fight like nothing happened. Shoes off, keys down, straight to the fridge. That was his version of resolution presence. No apology, no reflection, just time passing, and I let it count. I took his silence as peace, his return as a form of reconciliation. Convinced myself his shoulder brushing mine on the couch was the same as, I was wrong. It never was. I did the work. I explained, rephrased, soothed, apologized for my tone even when my tone was just tired. I read books, sent articles, tried to understand his past, his habits, his shutdown mode. He read none of it, but he always let me do the labor. Every time. I used to think he was just bad at expressing regret, that maybe his guilt was quiet, that maybe he was trying in ways I couldn't see. But trying doesn't look like waiting for someone else to fix what you broke. Trying doesn't look like silence, it looks like effort. And he never gave me that. Josh said we were just different. It was at a game night, one of those casual ones Cameron used to drag me to before he started staying home more. I went alone this time. Rena said it was brave. I said it was bored. Josh was there. He hugged me like he meant it but wouldn't meet my eyes. During a lull between rounds, I stepped outside for air. He followed a few minutes later, holding 2 drinks, even though I hadn't asked for one. We stood near the porch rail, both pretending the stars were more interesting than the tension. Then he said, "You and Cam, you're just different people." I took the drink, sipped. Is that his excuse now? He didn't laugh. "He's just quiet," Josh added. I nodded. And I was just loud. He finally looked at me. "You were always the one trying." I waited. He didn't add more, but he didn't need to. The guilt sat in the way he shifted his feet, in the way he didn't defend Cameron with his usual conviction, in the way he didn't say he's trying, just that he was quiet. Josh saw it. He always had. He just didn't know how to choose between loyalty and truth. So he chose silence, just like Cameron. Delia told me to communicate better. We were at lunch, her idea. She picked the place, ordered for us both, then tilted her head like she was ready to coach me through my own exhaustion. "I just think," she said, slicing her salad, "Cameron shuts down when people get intense." I blinked. I wasn't yelling. "I know," she said too quickly. "I'm just saying maybe if you phrased things differently." I stared at her. She kept eating. "Like what?" I asked. "How should I phrase I feel invisible so it doesn't scare him?" Delia didn't answer. She just reached for her water. I sat back in my chair. It hit me then, the way she always framed things. How she'd say, "Try to be softer," instead of "he should listen." How she'd say, "He's just private," instead of "you're carrying this alone." She didn't mean harm. She just thought neutrality was kindness. But silence sides with the one who speaks least. And in my relationship, that was always him. I watched her stir her dressing, carefully avoiding my eyes, and I realized I'd been screaming in silence for months. And all anyone heard was how loud it must have sounded to him. I cried at my desk. Again. Didn't mean to, didn't even feel it coming. One minute I was responding to an email about budgets, and the next, a single tear slipped down my cheek and hit the keyboard. I wiped it fast, hoped no one saw. Marla noticed. She didn't gasp, didn't ask if I was okay. She just walked by, left a mug of tea on the corner of my desk and said, "This helps me on the hard days." That was it, no invasion. No fixing, just presence. Later, when I went to thank her, she waved it off. "You don't owe me an explanation. You just looked like someone who's been holding in too much." I laughed, but it cracked at the edges. "That obvious." She smiled. "Only because I've been there." I asked her how she got through it. She said, "I stopped mistaking stress for passion, and I stopped loving people who made me feel erased." I stared at her, quiet. She tapped her mug against mine. "You deserve someone who makes you feel calm, not someone who makes you question if you're hard to love." That line echoed all afternoon. Calm. I couldn't remember the last time I felt that with Cameron, but I felt it with Marla. Just sitting there, saying nothing, holding space I didn't know I needed. I told him I needed more. It wasn't during a fight. There was no raised voice, no door slam. Just the 2 of us on the couch, a show playing in the background, untouched dinner on the table. I muted the TV. He glanced at me, annoyed. "What?" "I need more than this," I said. He didn't ask what I meant. He didn't lean in. He just exhaled, "Then be less." I stared at him. He added, "If you just relax, we'd be fine." That was it, no question about what I needed. No curiosity, just correction. As if my feelings were the disruption, not the lack of effort that caused them. I nodded slowly. He turned the TV back on, and I sat there next to a man who thought love meant enduring, who thought silence was peace, who thought I should shrink, soften, disappear to preserve the version of us that never really existed. That was the moment something shifted. Not a snap, a break. Quiet, final, he didn't notice. Because for him, comfort was me folding. But I was finally done being origami. I didn't text back that night. Not even the usual, "Okay." Not the softened version of what I meant. Not the follow-up to make sure we didn't go to bed on bad terms, even though they were always bad, just never acknowledged. I set my phone face down on the nightstand. Let it buzz. Then stop. Then go quiet. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, hands folded over my stomach like I was waiting to feel something dramatic. Some panic. Some pull to reach for him. It didn't come, just stillness. Heavy but not suffocating. Like standing in a room that used to echo and realizing it doesn't anymore. I could feel the part of me that always caved, the girl who'd say, "I know you didn't mean it like that." Just to keep him close, she was still there. But tired. And maybe for the first time, curious about what would happen if we didn't fix it this time, if I didn't fix it. I closed my eyes, let the silence settle, and didn't try to rescue us from it. He didn't call. Not that night. Not the next morning, not even a lazy "you good?" At lunch like he used to when he wanted to pretend nothing happened. Nothing, just space. And I realized something. He wasn't waiting for things to get better. He was waiting for me to fold like I always did. He thought silence was a tactic. He didn't understand that this time it wasn't a strategy. It was a decision. I went through my day as usual. Coffee, emails, errands. My phone stayed quiet. My heart didn't. Because for once I wasn't counting hours or reading receipts. I wasn't scripting what to say next or wondering if I'd made it worse. I was just present. And it was painful. But it was also peaceful. Cameron's silence used to feel like punishment. Now it felt like proof. Proof that I'd been carrying a conversation he never intended to join. Proof that every fight ended not because we healed, but because I caved. And proof that the only reason we lasted this long was me. Rena brought me ice cream and closure. Didn't knock. Just walked in with a grocery bag and that look she gets when she knows I'm spiraling before I do. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't need to. We curled up on the couch. Netflix played something mindless. I barely registered it. She handed me a spoon and opened the tub between us. "Vanilla bean," she said. "You used to hate it." "I still kinda do," I replied. She smiled. "It's not about the flavor, it's about control." I stared at her, she shrugged. "Sometimes you gotta eat something bland to remind yourself you're the one choosing now." We didn't talk about Cameron, not directly. She just said, "This is what it feels like when you stop begging." I didn't cry, not this time. I let the quiet be comfort instead of weight. We watched 3 episodes of trash TV. She commented on every outfit. I laughed, real and sudden, when someone fell in heels during a fake competition. It felt stupid. It felt human. It felt like the first time in days I didn't need to defend my pain. Rena leaned back and whispered, "Don't go back, even if he calls." I nodded. I didn't need to promise. Because something in me had already closed the door. Josh texted me out of nowhere. No build-up, no emojis, no punctuation, just, "You okay?" I stared at the screen for a long time. It wasn't romantic, wasn't flirty, wasn't dramatic, it was just different. Simple, direct, not meant to fix, just to check. I didn't reply. But the care in those 2 words hurt more than Cameron's silence ever had, because it reminded me what basic effort looked like, what attention without tension felt like. And it made me realize I'd been rationing myself for someone who didn't even ask what I needed. Cutting pieces of myself down so I could be easier to digest. Folding before fights even began just so he wouldn't have to be uncomfortable. Josh didn't know all of that, but he saw enough to send something. Something Cameron never did. I locked my phone without responding. Not because I didn't want to, because I wasn't ready to feel kindness yet. Not when I'd spent so long mistaking the absence of cruelty for love. I found an old voicemail from Owen. I was clearing out my phone, deleting screenshots, old threads, anything that still smelled like desperation. His name popped up buried in the saved folder. A message from years ago. I hit play. His voice was calm, detached. Said, "Look, I just need space. It's not you, I'm just overwhelmed. Let's talk in a few days." We never did, and as I listened, I realized Cameron sounded exactly the same. Same even tone, same false patience. Same quiet pullback disguised as maturity. I used to think that kind of silence was stability. That men who didn't yell were better than ones who did. But withdrawal isn't peace. It's neglect with manners. And somewhere between Owen and Cameron, I learned to call that safe. I learned to chase after someone going still, to take a quiet door closing as a sign to knock harder. But this time, I wasn't knocking. I deleted the message, blocked the number, And for the first time in a long time, I didn't cry over what I lost, because I hadn't lost anything. I just stopped carrying ghosts. I took myself to dinner. No makeup, no pretending. Just jeans, a soft sweater, and an appetite. I didn't go somewhere dim or dramatic. Just a small Italian place 2 blocks from my apartment. Candle on the table. Cracked menu. Quiet music. The hostess asked, "Just one?" I said, "Yeah, just one." She smiled like it wasn't tragic. I ordered what I wanted. Didn't ask for substitutions. Didn't text anyone while I waited. Didn't check if Cameron had messaged. He hadn't. I watched people laugh around me, couples leaning in. Solo diners scrolling. No one looked at me like I was sad. No one pitied me. And for the first time, I didn't pity myself either. I didn't rehearse what I'd say if he walked in. Didn't fantasize about him missing me. I just chewed, savored, existed. When the bill came, I tipped well, walked out slowly. Let the wind hit my face. I didn't take a photo of the food, didn't document it. It wasn't about proving I was fine. It was about being fine, even if just for one night, even if the peace still felt unfamiliar on my skin. He finally noticed the silence. 2 calls, back to back, then a text. "So you're just done now." No question mark the first time. He corrected it in the second. I stared at the screen, didn't move. The voicemail came next. His voice low, measured, performative. Like he was trying to sound calm while also making sure I knew he was bothered. "Look, I don't know what this is, but if you're gonna just ghost me after everything, like the labor I did to keep us breathing was mutual." He ended with, "I just thought we were stronger than this." I didn't play it again, didn't respond, because the silence wasn't a punishment, it was an answer. And now that it echoed back at him, he didn't like how unfamiliar it sounded. But that's what happens when you leave someone carrying the whole thing and then realize they finally set it down. He wasn't asking if I was okay. He was asking why I stopped making him feel okay, and I didn't owe him an answer. He showed up at my door. I heard the knock before I saw the message. "Outside, just want to talk." I didn't answer right away. He knocked again, softer the second time, like he was trying to seem harmless, casual, like we hadn't built a home on one-sided effort and called it love. When I opened the door, he looked surprised, like he hadn't expected I'd really come to it without smiling. He said, "I thought we were stronger than this." I leaned against the frame. "Stronger than what?" He shifted. "You always cared before. You always fought for us." "I did," I said. He nodded, hopeful. "And that's what broke me." His face changed. "So you're just giving up?" "No," I said. "I gave in over and over. This is me stepping out." He tried to reach for my hand. I didn't let him. "You stopped showing up emotionally," I said. "Now you want to be seen because you finally can't hear me moving around you anymore." He didn't speak. Just stood there, waiting for a version of me that no longer existed. I stepped back and closed the door gently. No slam, no speech, just quiet, the kind that says everything. Delia messaged me to talk it through. A long paragraph, 3 scrolls. She started with, "I don't want to pick sides, but I think you're being a little harsh." Said Cameron was trying. Said maybe I was reacting from emotion. Said you guys had something real. Said you owe it to yourself to hear him out. I read it once, didn't even blink, because I realized something. People who never spoke up while I was hurting always find their voices when I start healing out loud. Delia hadn't texted during the silence, hadn't asked if I was okay, hadn't checked in when I disappeared from group chats, skipped game nights, stopped replying. But now, with Cameron squirming, suddenly she remembered my number. Suddenly I was the one who needed to reconsider, to calm down, to communicate better. I didn't reply, I didn't argue, I just held down the message. Tapped delete, then opened the thread, blocked it, not out of anger, out of preservation. Because I don't need someone who waits until I reclaim myself to decide I'm worth reaching out to. Josh apologized. It was quiet, in person, no preamble. I was leaving the coffee shop near my office when I saw him outside, waiting. Hands in pockets, no Cameron in sight. He nodded at me. Got a second. I almost said no, but I paused. He said I should have said something sooner. I didn't respond. He looked down at his shoes. "I knew he was draining you. I just didn't want to lose him." I nodded once. "You did see it." "I did," he said. Every time you apologized for something he started. Every time you shrank and he didn't notice. I waited, he looked up. I admired how hard you tried, I just didn't think it was my place. It wasn't your responsibility, I said, but it was my silence. We stood there for a beat, two people who'd played supporting roles in the same quiet tragedy. Then he said, I'm sorry. I believed him, not because it fixed anything, but because it was the first time someone said the truth out loud. I said, thank you. Then I walked away, and for once didn't carry anyone else's guilt with me. Marla slipped a note on my desk, folded into fourths. No name, no punctuation, just 5 words written in her handwriting. Peace feels unfamiliar at first, but keep it. I stared at it longer than I meant to, didn't cry. Didn't overthink. Just pressed it flat and slid it into my wallet, behind the emergency cash I never spent. That morning had felt like any other coffee, inbox, routine. But something about that note made the quiet inside me feel like something new. Not a void. A clearing. Marla didn't say anything else. Just passed by later with a file in hand, winked once, and kept moving. I hadn't cried in days. Not because I was healed, but because nothing was draining me anymore. No eggshells, no translation, no version of love that felt like a job. I read the note again at lunch. Let the words sit in my mouth like a reminder. Peace isn't loud, it doesn't beg to be noticed, it just waits. And when you finally make space for it, really make space, it doesn't rush in like a storm, it walks in slowly. And stays. I don't miss him, not his laugh. Not his cologne. Not the way he kissed me after fights like a reset button. I miss who I was before I made myself small. Before I convinced myself that loving harder would fix the distance. That swallowing my voice would make room for his. I miss the girl who didn't flinch at quiet, who didn't rehearse every sentence, who didn't cry at red lights and call it timing. But that girl's not gone. She's walking home in the rain right now, coat open, not rushing. Hair damp, steps steady. The streetlights hum above her. Cars pass without splashing. She doesn't check her phone, doesn't hope for a message. She just walks. And the silence. It doesn't scare her anymore. It feels like air. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you all.